and refreshments over there in the corner, so no one should feel shy about going and helping themselves during the course of the meeting even, so. So the first item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Missing two board members tonight. Both of them wanted me to let folks know that they have a personal things going on that conflicted with tonight's schedule. So Mike DeSaulnier and Jaime Gomez are not with us this evening, but we do have a quorum. And first order of business is approval of meeting minutes, and we have 6 different meetings to approve. I'll entertain a motion on the May 8th business meeting.
So moved.
Motion made by Ilda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mark. Any discussion about those minutes? Okay, all those in favor? Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. Now we're on to the May 22nd workshop meeting minutes. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Tracy.
Second.
Seconded by Ilda. Any discussion on those minutes? Yes.
If nobody has any objection, can we combine the other 3, or are there objections to combining them and just taking them as a whole?
Are there any of the minutes that anyone wants to raise a question, a correction for?
Well, but also, there may not have been everybody at all those meetings.
Okay, that's fine. I was just trying to expedite it. Go ahead, keep going.
It's hard
I made
to
a motion.
abstain, yeah. Okay. Mary, did you want to say something about May 22nd?
Sorry, I forgot to mention for May 8th that I'm on here as being against and for and against the same thing, something. So I think it's on page 67, recommended approval of the DRA architectural. It says I was for and against. I think I was just against, but
So
I can't.
I need a motion to go back and
Sorry,
amend
yeah.
those minutes.
So moved.
I forgot
Motion
that
made
was
to
the-
amend the minutes by Murphy Sewell, seconded
Second.
by Mark. And then Mary, I need you to set the record straight so we can reflect that in the minute changes.
I'm pretty sure it was just, I didn't vote twice for it.
Yeah, but do you
so
know which way you voted?
I think I voted against.
Ms. Torado is
Hang
listed
on.
as for and
It's-
abstaining.
Motion, wait a minute, how would, to approve it?
You
You can't do
can't do
both.
both.
You can't do both.
No,
I'm
it was to
abstaining.
defer action on this item until after the budget is approved. I'm just confused because there's 2 motions listed.
Which motion are we talking about here? Oh. Yeah, so on the recommend approval of proposed from the DRA for architectural services.
So did you vote to defer, or did you vote against deferring? Because we didn't take a
Motion,
vote
the
on the
motion was
first
to
motion.
defer action until after the budget is approved.
I have to say I can't remember, and it's on there. I'm on doing both. I don't think I did
I make a
both.
motion, we
Yes.
defer action on this
Pardon?
first. I make a motion, we defer action on
Yes,
the May
thank you.
8th minutes until Ms. Testa's had the opportunity to review the video.
Well, okay, so the motion that's on the table to change the minutes needs to be withdrawn.
Oh, that's okay with me.
Okay, that's okay with you, Mark?
That's fine.
Okay, so now there's a new motion on the table to, do we not only need to defer action,
Withdraw-
but we
withdraw
need
the
to
approval of the
withdraw the
minutes.
approval of the minutes?
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
So-
what my
move.
motion is.
Okay.
Withdraw the approval of the minutes and defer action on these minutes pending review.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made by Tracy and seconded.
Hold on, did Ms. Testa get all that? I don't doubt you, I just want to make sure we're not going too fast.
Okay, so, any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
So you have to check
Abstentions?
that on Susie and Mary.
So Susie and Mary need to think about how they voted, and we're not gonna talk about it any further here, and let Janet know so that she can,
I'll review the tape.
okay. Oh, you were okay, thank you. Thank you.
Are we still on the second one, or did we finish
Okay, so
the second one?
We're back to May 22nd.
Okay.
We have a
have a vote on May
motion in a second, we just need to vote on the
Right, so I need any discussion on May 22nd. All those in favor? Okay, no opposed, no abstentions. Okay, now we're on to the June 6th special meeting minutes.
Make a motion to approve the June 6th special meeting minutes.
A second?
Motion's made by Tracy, seconded by Ilda. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Susie, are you?
No, I couldn't remember if I was here that day, that's all.
You were here for that one, you
You-
weren't here for the
Yeah, you
previous
weren't
one.
here for the
Okay,
next one.
thank you, I appreciate that.
It would have said at the beginning who was present. So June 13th, I'll entertain a motion on the June 13th
So moved.
special.
Second.
Seconded, motion made by Tracy, seconded by Mark. Any discussion? That's the one you were not at.
She was there.
But she's listed as,
Oh,
She was there last week.
oh, that's right,
It was
she
just
was.
Dr. Gomez who
Yes,
was
it was
there.
Dr. Gomez who wasn't there. Okay, sorry. All those in, any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Okay. No opposed, no abstentions. Thank you. So the next item is public comment. Is there anybody, oh, here. We have Dara Bowling signed up to speak.
teacher of the year.
Right, Teacher of the Year. Oh, and you have a guest with you, too.
Not yet.
Okay,
This is Julia. You'll see her again.
okay. You're on.
All right. Good evening. My name is Dara Bowling, and I just finished my 10th year teaching English here at Windham High School. One fact that people find surprising about me is I hate public speaking. My husband often asks, how can someone who talks all the time not like to speak publicly? But it's true. My hands shake, my knees knock, and my ears perceive this weird little nervous vibrato in my voice. I'd rather get a root canal, to be honest. But I will never, ever hesitate to speak up for our kids. And that's what brings me here tonight. A month or two ago, I spoke at a board meeting about the high school redesign. Specifically, I spoke about the necessity of not forcing teachers to share classrooms in the redesigned building. I mentioned loss of instructional time, lack of confidentiality and privacy, lack of space to meet with students, the danger to student work needing to be left in a room, and the sharp decline of efficiency that would result from a communal teacher workroom. I spoke about the difference between andragogy and pedagogy. I mentioned that the ways that a college sets up their physical space to educate adults is very different from the way a K-12 space is designed, and with good reason. There's real documented brain research that delineates the many differences between the ways adults learn and the way that children learn. Not all high schoolers are developmentally ready for college classes, and so why would we put them into a college classroom using the college model, thereby depriving them of the stimulation that a well-planned high school classroom would provide? Yet only a couple weeks later, after I addressed the board, I was dismayed to attend a presentation that laid out two possibilities for the new Windham High School, in which, as a side note, it felt that WHS was kind of relegated to the top floor and a small section at the bottom. I was dismayed to see the ways in which it seemed that our school, this educational institution that we want to become the flagship school of our district, was designed to fit into the spaces not needed by our neighbors. At the end of the presentation, Mr. Callahan said there would be further meetings to refine the vision of the building layout or possibly even discuss whether it needed to be reworked if teachers needed their own classrooms. So I'm here because, yes, that. I cannot emphasize enough how detrimental it would be to student learning, how the very idea is already stressing out teachers who have more than enough stress on their plates. Anyone who's taught in a classroom understands the ways in which a classroom is a functional cornerstone in building relationships and community with students. We teach students whose very success in this building are sometimes determined by the relationships they make here. And it would be easy to say a student makes the relationship with the teacher, not with the classroom. To that, I would answer yes and no. The classroom becomes a place where the students themselves establish community, a sense of ownership and safety that allows them to take risks and seek help. As a teacher in Portland, Oregon said when speaking out against the idea of shared classroom spaces in her high school, many students would be deterred from seeking extra help if they had to seek out teachers in their offices. And to be clear, there were a couple shared workrooms in the models, but teachers did not have their own offices. So I could make highly confidential and sensitive phone calls home to parents or guardians from a common area phone with other teachers sitting nearby, trying to do their own work in spite of my verbal distraction. What about the inevitable parent meetings? This past year, I had 43 of them from September through June. Where's the space where that would take place? Can you imagine 43 meetings multiplied by like 80 teachers? It's 3,440. What about offering students extra help during their study halls during my prep period? Additionally, there were not labs to be dedicated to widely provided blended learning, which is another reason schools often move to that model. And by the way, blended learning can also happen in a well-planned classroom. In this model, classrooms would be shared because of a lack of space rather than because of actual pedagogy. Also, I have to reiterate just one more time the very real concern of forcing teachers to work apart from the resources they have purchased. For example, I have 45 copies of Elie Wiesel's Night that I bought with my own money, 28 desks in my room, they all belong to me. Other teachers, inspirational posters, anchor charts, independent reading novels, you know the deal. So I'm not sure what the answer would be. You know, would we be expected to work without these tools, to bring them all with us wherever we go, to simply leave them in the room and hope for the best? It's not really a fair expectation. How much of an interruption would it be to send a fourth period student back to my third period class because we need that thingamajig that we didn't realize we were going to need? I do appreciate the work that our redesign committee has done on our behalf. And I deeply appreciate 100% that they are working within strict guidelines and answering to many different people. But I must ask you again to advocate for our students and our teachers by insisting that teachers not be forced to share classrooms in the new and improved Windham High School. I'm not trying to sound like a 5-year-old saying I don't want to share my stuff. This is a sincere plea on behalf of myself and of other educators in this building who share this position with me, because we do know what it takes to educate kids. And we want our students to have every opportunity to excel in this new space. You have no idea what that would take, you may say. I mean, I would say it if I were you. And you'd be right. I don't know if it means recounting the enrollment to see if we have enough bodies in the building between the high school and the little guys so that central office actually doesn't have to be here, no disrespect meant. Or building out and maybe even out and up in the recessed areas in the front of the building. But I know that in this district, La Familia can move mountains. I do know that. I've seen it. We do it every day. And I also know that we don't ever give up the quest in search of the best answers for our students. Our district mantra is every child, every day, in every classroom, and I believe in that. I think you know that I believe in that. But for this one situation, I would amend it and insist that at Windham High School, each teacher can be most effective for every child, every day, in one classroom. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Would you share that with us electronically, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else who didn't sign up to speak under public comment that would like to speak? Okay, we'll move on to reports, and we'll start with the superintendent's report.
Yeah, well, I think I want to change the agenda a little bit if I may, and we could start with Mrs. Bowling and her students with the Windham High School Mirrors and Windows. Is that okay with you, with the board?
Do I need a motion to do that? Or is everybody okay with us just flipping the order?
Flipping
Just
to,
flip it.
Yeah, okay,
You could flip it.
great. So we're going to start with item number 2
Two,
under this, with mirrors and windows.
every year, Mrs. Bowen, with her students, delight us with the magazine Mirrors and Windows. Every year, we get to see the magnificent work that students accomplish with her and with the Writing Center. I think this year you'll be excited to see again another piece of art, another piece of writing that I think will be around for eternity in our school district, and will be published somewhere as usual. You have something that we're already published, but I think she wanted to tell us, and we want to hear from the students and the process that they use and how they came up with it. And I think every year the board's delighted to hear the great work that you're doing. So, go ahead, Juliana.
My name is Julia Hank, and I'm one of the students who works on Mirrors and Windows,
Yeah.
which is Windham High School's literary and art magazine. It used to be called the Student Philosopher, but 7 years ago, under Miss Bowling, it was redesigned and reimagined. We are proud to say that our magazine has won the NCTE National Rating of Excellent in the realm recognizing excellence in art and literary magazines contest. Every year we learn a little more, and so we do a little better. This year we learned about layout and how it builds the message of the magazine. We learned about Adobe InDesign and Photoshop and Illustrator, which are professional software programs that were used to build this year's publication. We were inspired by this year's lock-in author, Sean David Hutchinson, and his strong belief that it's necessary to accept and respect oneself and each other as unique, special people who all belong here. We also experimented with margin art this year, so as you read the magazine, the art and writing in the margins tells a story of its own. Mostly, we believe there are truths that need to be said out loud. When we acknowledge things out loud, they have more power, and we are extremely proud of the power in this collection of the art and writing of the students of Windham High School. We are proud to present each of you with a copy, and we would like to thank our administration for their support of this year's edition of Mirrors and Windows.
Looks like they brought a few more copies than they needed.
Looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's always good work. Always good work.
Oh, there you go.
Ms. Bowen,
Is there-
and
is there anything you want to add, Dr. Garcia?
I just want to
or-
thank you on behalf of the entire Board of Education and behalf of the administrative team for the wonderful work that you do, and also for really expanding the horizon of our students. I know that the experience that they receive by participating with this is one that will last them forever and prepare them for that world of careers also. I've been talking to some of the students that went into journalism that want to be journalism because of the experience that I have with you and with this program. So thank you for preparing our students, and thank you for the experience that they receive in your course. And I have every single one that I receive every year. I have them because
Elda, we need him over here?
Yeah.
oh,
I thought she was giving them.
No.
No, you were supposed to.
Oh, wait, thank you.
and I love the shirt this year.
Thank you so much.
So, can we make sure we get 2 more copies for the 2 board members
Members
who
that are-
aren't
She got
here
one.
today? Yeah, thank you.
We need one more. Do you have?
You want more than 2?
No, those 2 board members that are out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
we
good.
got those. Thank you.
I see that Nathaniel
Shirts at
Barbosa is
home.
in here.
They're loud.
I can't wait to read through this. Thank you very, very much.
I read through it before. Pretty cool too. We the people.
And that almost matches the shirt.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, now we're on to strategic plan.
In your packet, I gave you a draft of the strategic plan priorities and goals. Those are a little bit for your purview and for you to take a look at it. Just want to go over the process that we've been using to work on the strategic plan. We started this a year ago, September, October of 2019. We had our first community forum where we wanted to hear the voices from the community in the strategic plan. We want to hear from the people of the community, what are the hopes and dreams for Windham Public School students. It was well attended. We had over 50 or 60 people that attended, and it included not only community members, but included teachers, administrators, support staff, and members of the Board of Education. I believe there were 3 members of the Board of Education. Since that, we have had different meetings with a task force that is composed of teachers, administrators, and other members. And they have met about 3 or 4 times. And we had another community forum not too long ago, I believe it was in June, with teachers, administrators, and other members of the community. What you have in front of you, so the process is really a collective effort where the voices of different groups are heard, including some students, of what are the hopes and their dreams for Windham Public School students in alignment with our vision, our mission, and also with the reality of what it means to be a college and career students once you graduate from Windham Public School. Of course, the first strategic plan that we did was our beginning step. This strategic plan, as you can see, has some revisions. It's redesigned or revised And again, as you take a look at it, you will see it's much more aligned with our mission and our vision. So just a little bit about the process. We're planning to have this completed and presented to you by October. So we still have an opportunity to hear from you. And we're thinking of having another community forum, if it's possible, between August and September. The task force will continue to work. The task force composed of about 10 or 12 people. Margaret, how many people have the task force? About 10 or 12? About 10? Yeah, 8 maybe. 8 to 10 continue to work. And what they do is they collect the feedback from the different groups, and they continue to work as they collect the feedback. So it's a work in progress, and they continue to revise it. So it's there for your purview, and we hope that you will have an opportunity in one of our workshop meeting to discuss it, to give us feedback, and to give us your input also. But just want to emphasize again that it started in September, October of last year, so it's a year-long process. It's not something that has developed overnight or over 1 month. Madam Chair, go ahead.
Dr. Garcia, on this, I know we'll schedule some time to have a workshop meeting and talk about this, but in the meantime, if people read through this who are on the Board of Ed and have thoughts, to whom should they
They can send
give
the email.
the feedback?
They can send the email to me,
To you?
and I will make
Okay.
sure it goes to the task force, and task force work on it.
Okay.
And any question that they have?
Yeah, does anybody have any questions? Or feedback? Okay, not right now.
So I know this is the first time you've seen it,
Right.
so, but I want you to have it, and then over the summer, you can take a look at it.
Are we gonna discuss this at the retreat?
It would be a good topic to discuss at the retreat, I believe.
Madam Chair, if I may, I don't know how I missed it, but I do want to acknowledge 2 new members of our team that are here with us tonight. These are the first board meeting, and I want to acknowledge Mrs. Stephanie Garrett, our new Director of Human Resources. Stephanie's over here. Welcome, Stephanie. And I also want to acknowledge Mrs. Dan Tamakas, our new Director of Facilities. Welcome, Dan. Here with us. So this is their first board meeting, guys, so we're gonna be nice to them. The first board meeting.
We already fed them. We just do it better than we do at most
That
board
doesn't
meetings.
happen at every board
Right.
meeting.
You usually need to bring your own snacks, so. Anything else on that before we move on? Okay, so we have 2 first readings of policies that are pretty meaty. How are we gonna deal with that? Are you gonna have Ilda?
So, Ms. Ray, you wanna start on the policy and we can support you?
I will start. So I'm Ilda, I'm the policy chairperson of the Board of Ed. So we're bringing to you the first reading of the graduation requirements, policy number 6146, which we have in our packets. But since it's Dr. Youngberg's pet, I will let her.
It's already muted.
I will let her explain it to you, because it is very meaty. I don't want to forget anything. Do you want it?
Sure, I'll answer any questions, or.
You're gonna need a microphone though, Dr.
Yeah.
Yoder.
Or you could come up to the table, whatever you want to do. Okay, thank you.
Okay, has everyone had a chance to read through it at least? Because it is pretty meaty. It's a good description. So the former policy, the one that we were trying to revise, went back, I believe, to 2006. So you can imagine it was a little bit behind the times in terms of what the state is requiring for graduation. So Ms. Testa was nice enough to give us a wonderfully marked up copy to show you where all the changes have made in there. Quite a few changes. The committee worked hard. We had a committee at the high school. We had a cabinet committee, and we went back and forth between the two to try to make sure all the changes were in alignment with what the state is requiring. I guess the biggest thing, or a thing to point out, is on number 2, where it says credit distribution requirements for graduation, graduating class of 2019 through 2022. They have a different set of requirements than the next graduating class of 2023, and that's how the state is designed. It's like a gradual release. So that's why there's a distinction between the two sets of classes. Other than that, I think, other than the difference between those two groups, I think the rest of it's pretty straightforward, and I'm happy to answer questions after you've had a chance to sort of digest it, because it's a lot. There's a lot of information. Yes.
Under number 2 there, it says to graduate and be granted a diploma, students must for 19 to 22.
Okay.
Complete a minimum of 25, and then in parentheses it says 21 credits. Which one's a typo?
This one. 25.
The words say
Oh, it's-
25, but the number says 21.
Yeah,
To graduate, which, what
It's
page?
actually, the class of 2019 through 2022 is 21 credits still.
Then the
So the word
has to-
doesn't match, you're right, in the type.
Well, just
right,
before
exactly.
we approve it, and then somebody questions
Correct.
it.
Yeah.
And then the change is for the graduating class of 2023 must
23.
have 25.
Five.
Right.
They're working at the high school to make sure the kids have more than 21. It's a minimum of 21, but by 2023, they must have a total of 25. Thank you for finding that.
But we do have students that graduate with 25 currently. We have a large number of students that graduate with 25. I think the issue we're looking at the distribution of credits. And we're very disappointed with the new distribution because as you take a look, they took away points credit for foreign languages, for example. However, we can decide at the school that we want to have 3 credits for foreign languages. So, but here at Windham Public School or Windham High School, we have students that graduate with 25 already, a large number of students, a large percentage of students.
Yeah, but the
Mary,
the document needs
Mary
to
had
be.
her, yeah. It will be corrected. They've noted it. Mary?
Okay, so is, the first part I wanted to know is, are these credit distributions the state outline of them? So 9 credits, they define it as humanities, including civics and the
You're
arts?
talking about the 2023 graduating class?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah, the state-
exactly how the
state,
state
yeah,
document
document, yes.
is asking us to define
Yeah.
it.
So, I mean, it seems to kind of marginalize the arts. And then also, okay, what's the new physical education and wellness? Does that include different kinds of gym class?
It includes options within the gym class.
Options.
Okay.
So the one is student to have a half a credit addition in health.
Right, but then the next one is 1 credit in health and safety education.
Yes.
So, I mean, I think it's good because it looks like an increase in what's required. Before it was 1.5.
So what they did, Dr. Galucci, they increased in the health sciences and they decreased in the arts and foreign languages.
Oh, well, that's not good. But they increased the overall number of credits, so
Yeah,
I
but
don't
the
understand.
other areas they increased. I think the math, which one is math or ELA, one of them that they increased another one of those. Yeah. But foreign language increased by a half a credit.
So
Okay.
we're
We
bound.
can't change the state requirements.
Yeah,
No,
yeah,
I
right,
know.
yeah.
We
Thank
can't,
you.
so the question I was going to ask was, we can't change the state requirements, but if we add more
Or you
in,
can add more.
it's up to the local district
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
We have to meet the
Yeah.
minimum standard, but we
I
can go
see.
above and beyond that, like we're doing right now with the high school students that Dr. Garcia was referencing, graduating with more than 21 credits.
But still, more than 25 would be very hard for our kids. 25 is
Right.
enough. More than 25 would be a lot. Yeah.
Well, and just to make clear to members of the public that are watching, this is the first reading, we're not taking action on this tonight. So, are there other questions that people have about the first reading?
So,
Go ahead.
yeah, it appears that you're actually offering the high school more flexibility in that before the social studies required that at least 1 credit in U.S. history be included. The current, the new one basically just says humanities, including the civics and arts, doesn't say anything about whether any history is required. I would hope that we'd still be teaching U.S. history, but it's so, in other words, it looks like there's more flexibility in terms of deciding exactly what that curriculum is.
Yeah, there's some flexibility there to look at some new courses and new opportunities. Yeah.
Well, Isn't it,
Mark?
I read U.S. history right here. 3 credits in social studies, including 1 in U.S. history
History.
and half a credit in civics.
That's the one that's expiring.
That's one expiring.
Right, he's talking about the 2023
Yeah, that's
class.
fine.
For the next one, okay.
Yeah.
They just leave it very global.
Lump it all together, arts, humanities.
I love it all together. There's an interesting book titled "Lies My History Teacher Told Me" about K-12 history, U.S. history education, that might make a good basis for, it'd be nice if our high school taught real U.S. history for a change.
Well, I think this is a big change that we're looking at here. And I think everybody should wrap their heads around it, and we need to understand it, because as once adopted, it will then kick into gear over the next several years.
Yeah.
And people who have maybe had one child graduate with one set of expectations might have a younger child coming through and be very confused, and we'll have to do a lot of sharing with the public about this, but also we'll have to know what we have flexibility to, what flexibility we have within these guidelines.
All the school districts are grappling with this right now, every single school district. So it's not something, it's set in stone by the state that they give us this requirement. But as we meet the school district across the country, we all are figuring out how do we do this? Because there's also a cost in this, staffing and looking at other things. So training and staffing, materials. So we all are grappling with it. We're not the only school district, and hopefully together, one of the good things, because Connecticut is so small, that when we get together as a collective effort, we look at what can be done statewide to address this issue. And this is a topic of conversation when we meet monthly with superintendents, the new graduation requirements. And by the way, it took years for them to approve it. I mean, this has been in the making for the last,
Since Dr.
it's-
Adamowski was here.
yeah, this has been in the making for the last 6 years. So finally, they approve it. So, and there have been so many changes over the years.
Murphy?
Well, one thing that's attractive about this, and that I would encourage Windham High School staff to take as much advantage of as possible, is the opportunity to build college core credits into the high school curriculum within the high school requirements. Given the constant increases in the cost of university education, to the extent that students can get core credits that can be transferred to any public university anywhere, and enter with advanced standing and pay for less than 4 years of college if that's a serious financial consideration, which it is for a lot of families, then we have an opportunity here to offer our students something of real economic as well as educational value.
Yes.
A while ago, I've been doing this for a little bit now, we explored the idea of having after-school sports count as a gym requirement. And there were some different things that we had to jump through. They had to be a certified teacher or blah, blah, blah. Plus, they had to have their coaching certification. Is that something that we've looked at? It would free up time in their schedule.
That's interesting. I haven't seen anything like that with the new requirements, but I'm willing to read up on it.
Okay.
To find out if there's,
We should look
if it
into
still
that.
exists or-
I mean, a lot of our more academic students are involved in sports and stuff like that as well. Not all of them, but a lot of them are. And if this alleviates some of their class load by not having to take a gym class if they participate in 2 sports or something like that, that might make their academic schedule a little more tolerable.
That went to that we had conversation with state about that, and that did not go through. But now that we have the new requirements, they're giving you some option of what can be done in there. But years ago, that did not go through.
But we should look
Yeah.
into what the possibilities
Abilities
are.
are, right.
Yeah.
I know they have to take health, and that's absolutely required, and I understand that. But if they're already doing, physical activity and stuff like that, it might be something.
For example, CPR now can count.
Right.
So
Yeah,
if CPR,
lifeguarding.
lifeguarding can count, then CPR will count now.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions about the draft policy that's before us? Okay, thank you. Now we're on to the first reading of another policy, which is the magnet schools enrollment outside of attendance districts. And Ilda, would you like to kick that one off?
Yes, policy 5117.11. We've read this many, many times.
Yes.
Many times. So, there's just 2 changes. Did you want to talk about it? You look excited. You want to
Me?
talk about it? Yes.
No, I'm here to support you. I will jump in when you ask me to jump in. I'm here to support you in this.
Go right ahead, Ilda.
I'm here to support you.
So, you guys, have you had time to look at it? Should I read it to our guests, our distinguished guests?
Or explain the basic
Yeah, just
changes.
explain it.
The
Don't
basics-
read the whole thing.
Okay,
just
the basics.
explain.
If a student is selected through the staff preference at Barrows prior to 2016 and the staff member voluntarily ends his or her employment with the Windham Public School, that student will be permitted to stay in that school until the terminal grade of the school, which means till that school is completed, if it's Barrows, the 8th grade. If a student is selected through the staff preference after April 2016, and same thing, the staff leaves Windham Public Schools, then that child will only be allowed to finish the school year that they're in. So that's it, that's pretty much it.
This is the following school year.
Following
Following
school
I'm
year.
sorry, the following school
School
year,
year.
which would be the first, probably
Yeah.
full school year, depends, depending on when.
And the reason that we've been working on this is that there have been some lack of clarity that have been raised by several inquiries and situations of lack
Well, it
of
wasn't-
clarity.
It wasn't very clear either in the
Right.
policy.
Well, it wasn't clear, but also we could verify that the new provision came in 2016. That's when the new provision came in. So anyone that came in as staff preference prior to 2016, that provision was not there. So they should not be penalized. But the provision came in 2016. So anyone that came after 2016. So no, the provision is very clear. But the provision of staff preference came in, leaving or staying, it's after 2016. So if you came in 2014 or 15, it shouldn't apply to you. Right. So I feel very confident that this is the right thing to do. I have no doubt in my mind. If you're here in 2014, 2012, 2013, but anyone after 2016, when the provision came in.
Should there be a clause at the end of it that says this provision expires on such a date, like whenever those kindergartners would have been 8th graders? It doesn't have to go on for perpetuity, because at some point, if you weren't here in 2014 and it's 2028,
Right. I mean,
it no longer applies.
yeah, I guess we could, but if you came in 2014, you're leaving at some time. You're leaving, if you came in 2014 in kindergarten, it would be 8 years later,
9 years later,
9 years later, so you have to leave by,
2023. Right, so this, this provision expires by June of 2020.
and if you came in 2017,
Or we rem
this is not going to apply to you. I mean,
Anyway.
Or we
anyway,
amend
so yeah.
the policy again in 2023 to remove that clause, because then it's no longer needed. So it's up to you guys.
Take it under advisement and policy.
Yes, we'll take it under advisement.
So, but I guess what I need to understand is why this is necessary. In many cases, the reason someone ceases their employment in the school district is because they're moving somewhere else. And they generally take their children with them.
No,
That was it, no.
There have been requests
No.
for different.
Yeah.
There've been
There
folks.
have been stays granted already under,
Yes.
The old policy,
It's an issue
without it
that has
going to the
come
board.
up, and we need to make it clear in writing.
So you're saying that a teacher leaves the school system, takes a job in an adjacent school system, wants to leave their child in the school
That's-
here?
That's the request that's been
Okay,
made.
and why would that be a problem?
Well, because you have a policy
Staff
that says,
preference.
you have a staff preference that said
they're no longer staff.
they're no longer staff. They're no longer staff. So your preference is for staff preference. They're no longer staff. However, that policy, that preference came in 2016. So what we're saying is anyone that was before 2016, it was not there, should be grandfathered.
Yeah, grandfathered in.
After 2016, then.
I mean, what I'm wondering is how many children are affected by this?
Not that many. Not that many. Not that many.
That's really why I'm wondering why, if a student is in the school, why it's necessary.
Well, there are a couple that are affected. And so,
Okay.
so
I mean,
they are
I
a
can
small
understand-
number.
I can understand how this can happen.
So we
Okay,
will,
I just wonder whether it involves enough students to go to all this
Well,
trouble.
I think that there have been a number of questions raised by those staff people and/or other staff people who are wondering why certain things are happening, and there's lack of clarity. So we need to have it clear in writing,
Well, I
even if
think-
it only applies to a few people, so that everybody can be given this policy and told this is how it works.
Except that there are two possible outcomes, all right? I mean, I agree that there needs to be a clear policy, but one policy is that the child gets to stay in the school until they complete the school, until, for Barrows, and effectively until 8th grade. The other policy would be, okay, you get until the end of the following year. I I don't understand why it is necessarily a problem if the child finishes through 8th grade at Barrows, if that's where they are.
Because our magnet school is a little bit different than other magnet school, and we're gonna have to have a lot of discussion about different policies. We have a 6633, and so because of that, you have an in-district, out-of-district, you have to match those numbers. That ratio. So this has to, this is one of the reasons that
Okay,
this clarified.
so that's now
That's another
there's a reason I can put my head around. I'll accept that.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion on this policy? We're not taking action on it tonight, but we will at our next meeting. Okay, hearing none. We're going to move on to committee reports. And the first report is from Finance and Audit.
Okay. Finance and Audit Committee met this evening at 6 o'clock. Our primary discussion was regarding the 2018-19 budget, revenues and expenses. Our concern is that it is a requirement of state statute that the revenues and expenses balance out, or at least that we not run a deficit by the end of the fiscal year, which occurs on June 30th, which is what, 11 days away? And it appears that we have not yet completely closed the gap, that we still have a deficit, an apparent deficit gap that needs to be closed. There are some state funds that have not been credited to the Board of Education by the town. It is not yet clear whether those funds will be sufficient to close the gap. We do not have sufficient data at this point to answer that. So the Budget and Finance Committee, or the Finance and Audit Committee, plans to meet again next Wednesday, when we hope that we will have the data to see exactly where we are. And we'll take whatever actions that are required to stay in compliance with statute. The other thing that was discussed at the meeting was we are negotiating with a bus company regarding a bus contract for the next year. Well, actually for the next, it's 3 years or
5 years.
5-year contract. Okay, so that negotiation is currently ongoing.
Are there any questions?
We're meeting at 6 o'clock next week also?
Probably, although since we don't have a board meeting scheduled for that evening, I don't know that we necessarily have to meet at 6 unless if that's inconvenient.
Just asking, no, I'm just asking. so-
Yeah, okay.
my
Now,
phone.
6 is the normal meeting time, so I'd
I
assume
don't get
that's
out of
when we
work till
do
5,
it.
so
Yeah,
I won't be here before 5.
I think 6 is better for those of us.
Yeah,
Does-
okay.
Excuse me,
Six-
Finance and Audit meet every Wednesday?
No.
Usually only the weeks of board meetings.
No, because you
Yeah.
said next week.
He said we were meeting next week.
We're having a special meeting of the Finance and Audit
Because
Committee
we're
next week.
closing out the year.
Because we're closing the year. We don't, and we're still gathering data on exactly where we are this fiscal year.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, school planning and design.
Well, I have a lot to report, even though we haven't had a meeting. We ran into graduations nearly every night in the past couple weeks, and Ms. Tamakos is just, did I say it right? Tamakos? Yeah, Tamakos, sorry, is just coming on board, and so I wanted her to, kind of get her feet wet before we required a meeting. I'm hoping maybe next week, if not, the week after the 4th of July, we'll have one. And that'll give her some time to have been in the district. I believe you started the 10th? And so the 10th, we also had a meeting with the state to go over some of the projects that need to be closed out, and we got some more information. We're working towards that. The Barrows project has been pretty much completed and is ready for audit, and we have the 2 wells, the middle school roof and the Natrog roof, that we're still working on, getting paperwork together. So that's in progress, and we're excited about that coming to a close. That way we can start really with earnest at on the high school project. On Monday night, the high school renovation committee had a meeting, and one of the major things that we discussed was the pool renovation that needs to happen here in the building. There are some concerns. We had the pool drained, and we had some boring tests done and stuff like that. The hopper is not deep enough for diving. I requested but did not direct Ms. Stamakos to not put the diving board back in until we had more clarification on that. Possibly, the blocks are okay for diving off of, but the diving board posed a concern. So we're looking at options, and I'm just saying this in a way to let you guys know. The ed specs had swimming and diving as part of it, and we may have to have a discussion about removing the diving portion of the swimming and diving of the pool. Every effort is being made to keep the pool. It is an asset to the school. Lifeguarding, swimming lessons, Special Olympics, and 2 swim teams both utilize it pretty much year-round, but there is a concern about it not being, and when you don't know that it's not in code, you're okay to use it. But once we officially knew, once we had that report from the company that came to look at the pool and talk about our options, we're obligated now to take action on not using it. I hope Dr. Garcia, I'm assuming, should back me up with the not putting the diving board
No,
thing
no,
in.
I already
Because
got
it would
the
be
email.
just our luck that, this first time somebody dove, now that we know something would happen.
I did get the email from the architect that said not to do it.
All right, so I'm just putting that on everybody's radar, that's something we may have to have a discussion about as a board, whether to amend that part of the ed specs or whether to work with the building committee to see. They're doing up numbers and designs now on what it would cost to raise the deck, lower the hopper, move things around, do different things, and it looks to be an expensive endeavor. So diving may have to be foregone. And I have a swimmer who's been on the swimming, all of my kids have been on the swimming and diving team, so it's kind of hard for me to say that. But if it's millions and millions of dollars that could be used for educational purposes or upgrading the rest of the building for classrooms and stuff like that, there's gonna have to be one of those tough decisions that I'm sure we'll have many of during this process. Did you want to add anything, Mary?
Yeah, I just wanted to not have people in mind thinking that the diving has been very dangerous, or what happens is the United States and the state of Connecticut uses the most rigorous standards that are set internationally, and they have actually been increasing over the years. So we were in compliance, of course, and but they have increased the depth that is deemed safe, and so that's that's the reason we would need to get into code for that.
Thank you for that explanation. Are there any questions based on the report? Yes.
I have one. Is the question of whether or not teachers have their own classrooms or not an ed spec issue or a building committee issue? In other words, is that something that gets limited or controlled by the ed specs, or is it a problem that the building committee deals with to the best of their ability?
At this point, I think it's something everyone's grappling with. It's partly because of having 3 distinct entities in this building, which is supposedly hugely oversized, but is no longer hugely oversized. The pre-K is pretty big. They get a big chunk of the space, and central office gets a big chunk of the space. It might be prudent to see if some parts of central office or some kinds of storage could be relocated, but that is my opinion.
My question is what's the proper venue for struggling with that question? And does the ed spec?
It's the size of the building, really.
But the ed spec called for a certain number of square footage, and the high school portion was given slightly more than the number of square footage they asked for. I think it was 26 classrooms were requested. I believe it's 28 classrooms have been given. So basically, the state reimburses on a per-student basis. And early childhood has this many students, so they get this many square feet. The high school has this many students, so they get this many square feet. And central office, we could put central office somewhere else. We could make it smaller, but it's also going to decrease our
The
reimbursement. And one of the things that both school planning and design, when we were working with Fryer on the high school, the 10-year facilities master plan, and the building committee has said is we have to maximize our reimbursement, especially because it started out as $112 million project, and now we're down to $78 million. We really have to make sure that we get the most for our money, for our local taxpayers as well for our students. So it's been a concern that we have now slightly more. We could take a small penalty, but I'm not sure that's going to happen. We have slightly more space than was requested in the ed specs, and we've tried to be as generous as we can, but at some point, we don't have the number of students we need to increase the square footage that we get, and it's an unfortunate reality at this point, and it's something that we have been grappling at. When teachers first started complaining to me, I started complaining to the rest of them, and they said, okay, but then we have to make some decisions. Are we going to take less state money? Are we going to add on to the building at a higher cost? And those are all things that we're still discussing. We haven't seen more than a blush of a first glimpse of what this building could look like, and they were just kind of spitballing what we might do, where we might put things, how we can work things out. One thing we've been mindful of is that it doesn't go high school, early childhood, central office, because at some point, if we do grow in population, which is our hope with the programs that we're planning on offering, we can expand and possibly move central office into another building or portions of it or something like that, and make classrooms where if we put early childhood in the middle, it would be high school, early childhood to high school, and there wouldn't be the continuity of flow of traffic and stuff without interrupting the early childhood as well. So we're trying to grapple with that. Nothing's been done, certainly coming to the school planning and design committee meetings, which I still hope to hold throughout the summer. I'm gonna be gone for a small portion of it. And coming to the building committee meetings, which are the first and third Mondays of the month here in the high school on the central office side, and express your opinions and listen to what we're saying, so you're getting both sides of the story, not just central office is stealing all our space, because there's an economic responsibility that we have as well, to make sure that the square footage is used to maximize our reimbursement and to give us the most that we can for our educational needs.
Mary wanted to add something, I think. You had your hand up.
Yeah, just saying, we're going from 45 classrooms to maybe 28. I mean, it's a big reduction, but also the thing about square footage is we have very wide hallways, which they no longer build on in high school. So in some ways, we're penalized for the pre-existing building, and so saying that we have these wonderful hallways that people can pass through easily means we have a smaller classroom. So the state could potentially look at that and say, oh, we might be more generous, but I don't know if that would happen.
If I may add something, Madam
Yes.
Chair. But I think one of the most important things Mrs. Lambert pointed out, people need to understand is that the reimbursement comes based on number of students. That's how the state reimburses for number of students, for enrollment. So we went in the system and put the most up-to-date enrollment that we have for the high school. Mr. Neil Weathers went up there and put it. We want the state to see the numbers that we have, but the enrollment is what drive the reimbursement for the building. And so that's the difference right now, how much money we can get to renovate this building.
Murphy.
Okay, but there is a reimbursement and a square footage size for the high school with that, but what I'm understanding is that the ed specs don't constrain whether or not they don't require a classroom per teacher. So the place where that is going to be resolved is going to be in the building committee. I mean,
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
be supportive of the idea that teachers should have their own classrooms. The building committee is where that issue is going to play itself out. That's what I wanted to make clear to those people who want to address that issue where it makes the biggest difference.
You're right.
Any other question? Yes, Mark.
I'm just wondering if we might have a joint meeting between the board and the building committee at some point. Clearly, I wasn't on the board at the time, but I'm assuming the board made some decision as to coming up with this $125 million renovation, and then we gave it to them, and then the state said, no, it's only going to be this. But it may be time for the board to give some direction as to whether we feel it's important to have a classroom per student, and how does that work? Or maybe we need to understand.
Classroom per teacher.
Per teacher.
Classroom per teacher.
Or maybe we need to understand the limitations, that may be a joint workshop or joint meeting so that we can
What do people
reflect back to them.
think of Mark's idea, having a meeting of that sort?
I think we can have the meeting, and, I mean, the
And
board
invite
can
the
say,
board,
the
yeah.
board can say, we want to have one classroom per teacher, but that's going to make a significant financial impact on this project. That would need either to not have central office here,
Or
which is what
pre-K.
we went to, or pre-K,
Pre-K,
which is what we went to referendum for, which is what the voters approved, so that might mean a whole new referenda, et cetera. Or it could mean significantly decreasing our reimbursement rate and hugely impacting the project. And I'm not against it. I just want everybody to be aware of what the ramifications of this kind of a discussion could be.
That was my point in having that joint meeting, so we could be aware of what the ramifications are and make at least a direction from the board that we still feel it's important that we do X, or we feel no, because of finances, we're gonna stick with Y. Just a meeting, that's all I'm suggesting.
It's good, it could certainly be something that we can talk to the building committee about, setting aside some time on an agenda coming up soon to have that discussion. Murph?
You know, I mean, just a question of, do we want to pull diving out of the ed spec? The obvious question is, what would it cost to make the pool deeper? So, and is that an unreasonable number or not? So the building committee would be the ones that say, this is the number you'd have to deal with.
I think,
So-
Dr. Garcia, I didn't see the email, I wasn't privy to it, but I think that, that will happen in the next.
In the next meeting,
meetings,
next
yeah.
meeting.
Hopefully by the next
Yeah.
meeting, we're waiting, there's a company called MURTA.
Yeah, and they're coming up
Pools,
with,
and
they
come
do the
up with-
study.
Yeah,
Right.
they didn't do the study, no, they design a
And the
certain
certain,
kind of
yeah.
pool that'll raise the deck
Yeah.
to help mitigate
That
the hopper
difference,
depth.
yeah.
And that, it all has a cost with it, and at some point, the building committee is gonna have to make a recommendation to the board. And certainly, all of our meetings are open to the public. They're, like I said, in the central office conference room, Mondays at 6:30, the first and third Mondays of the month, unless it's a special meeting. So people can certainly come and listen to that. And at the next meeting, the architects and the construction managers are hoping to have concrete information about that.
And there's
Concrete
public
information.
comment?
with
There is public comment at
Yes.
the beginning, yep.
Just so members of the public know
And generally,
that-
as long as it keeps flowing, the chair, Mr. Callahan, is pretty good about letting people give their input, as long as it doesn't become laborious.
Okay. Any other questions? I know there's a lot going on there, so.
All that, and I didn't have a meeting this month.
Thank you. Policy Committee, any report you want to give to us?
You know, I don't know if it's because I'm getting older and I'm becoming forgetful if I don't write things down, but so we looked at a policy for micro purchasing guidelines, and we had the first reading a while back, and I can't find it in my notes when we had the first reading, because we technically were supposed to have the second reading and get back to Mr.
Okay.
Vol, because he's waiting for an answer. So I guess we'll have to
Ask for it to be on
ask for
the
it to
next
be on the
agenda.
next
Yeah,
agenda,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
I don't know what happened.
Well,
I
let's make
accept
sure it gets,
responsibility.
make sure it gets reflected in the minutes and that we make sure we get it. You need to make sure it's on the agenda.
Yes, I will.
Take action. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One other item, our attorney has described our current personnel policy. I can't remember whether the word was antiquated or archaic. but
Archaic.
We need to take a look at that. That's a big project.
Either way, it appears that we need to modernize our personnel policy.
And
Our
with,
policy committee will be busy in the
That will be
future.
on the to-do
Yeah.
list.
Yes.
and with the new director of HR, I'm pretty sure should be eager to be part of that committee.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, well, we didn't have an executive committee meeting this month. It's usually on the first Wednesday of the month, so the next regularly scheduled one would be on July 3rd. I'll have to canvass the members of the executive committee to see whether that makes sense to folks. If not, we will choose another date, but there will be a meeting coming up soon, possibly next week or maybe on July 2nd or something like that. But we'll be talking about that, and we do need to continue our work on getting the evaluation process for the superintendent wrapped up. We've had a subcommittee working on that document, and we'll be talking about that. Also, I do want to say that I've spoken with the chair of the Finance and Audit Committee, and as people know, that we are going through a forensic analysis of our board, of the Board of Ed accounts. And we expect that analysis to be completed in July. And I think, given how much attention there's been given to the Board of Ed and finances, particularly by other boards in town, that we are going to start having at one of our regular monthly meetings, whether it's the first meeting of the month or the workshop meeting, whichever makes more sense, to get a more full report to the full board of where we are with our finances, and have more sort of public understanding of the Board of Ed finances by everybody on the board. So, so the Finance and Audit Committee will continue to do its work, but they'll be bringing a more full, complete report to the full board starting next month. Anything else? Any questions? Okay, so now we're on to a fun part of the agenda, which is
Oh, yes.
action items about the recommended approval of appointment of school administrators. And you got in your packet that we have 2 actions to take tonight.
Yes.
And Dr. Garcia, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yes. It gives me great pleasure to recommend the approval of Dr. Marcus Ware as principal of Windham Middle School and Mrs. Joan Haddock as assistant principal of Windham Middle School. I haven't finished yet.
And don't worry, we're going to have you both come up.
No, I haven't
Yeah,
finished
so
yet.
don't- yeah, but come on up to the table, please.
Dr. Marcus Ware has integrated himself within the Windham community and as a leader to the staff members since his original hire as assistant principal at Windham Middle School in the early 2018-2019 school year. Currently, Dr. Ware has been serving as acting principal for Windham Middle School till today. Yes. During this time, Dr. Ware has invested all hands-on, working with staff and with parents and with students, moving the school in the right direction. He has experience as a principal coming from Springfield Commonwealth Academy for many years. Dr. Ware has a doctorate degree from the University of Hartford in Education Administration. Dr. Ware, congratulations and welcome as principal.
We're going to have to get motions on the floor and all that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
stuff,
so-
but.
Okay, so don't move.
So
Yeah.
don't, and then, Dr., so we're going to do one at a time,
So
okay?
you want me to do, okay, him
And
then
then,
John?
so I need a motion to move on this
Make a
item.
motion.
Do I get a second?
I'll second it.
Hilda, and then Murphy. And now we're going to hear from you, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
Oh, okay. So I'm happy to be here this evening. For those who don't know me, I am Dr. Ware. I've been here since August. It feels like I've been here, just got here yesterday, but it's not the case. And so I'm privileged and honored to be recognized and charged with this duty to move the middle school in the direction, under the direction of Dr. Garcia, as well as some tremendous help in people in the community who've definitely have supported me. They're sitting over here, as well as in the central office. And the question has been asked to me several times, are you ready? I was ready when I took the AP role. So I'm here to stay. I'm not going anywhere. And I'm pleasantly surprised and appreciated that I've received such overwhelming feedback from the community. So I thank you for the opportunity.
So I'm going to open it up from the board. Are there any discussion or questions anybody has?
I'm very happy for this appointment.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you.
Likewise, we already started, so we're going to continue.
Yes, we have. And this is a great start right here. Everyone coming with you, and look at them, they're all so excited. Not nervous, just excited.
I'm nervous, but I'm glad.
This has probably been the busiest year at the middle school.
I believe it.
So you passed the test.
Thank you. Thank
Is there
you.
anybody else who wants to say anything? Yep, Murphy?
I'm really pleased. We're fortunate that you're that you're here, that you're available, that you can do this, because this is, the middle school is in many ways pivotal in this district and is crucial to the success of the high school, for example. And so it really is important that the middle school function the way a middle school should. And so the leadership is critical. I'm really glad really glad to see both of you sitting there, actually. Thank you.
Anything else? So we have the motion on the table to approve Dr. Ware as the principal of the middle school. All those in favor?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And next, and by no means any less importance, we have another appointment to make. I'll hand it over to you.
It gives me great honor to recommend Mrs. Joan Hatter as Assistant Principal for Windham Middle School. Mrs. Hatter received her bachelor's degree in arts and English from Eastern Connecticut University, and she also has a master's in bilingual education and her degree and her certification in educational administration from Sacred Heart University.
Oh.
Sacred Heart, right? That's what it said here. Sacred Heart University.
Which one? The
There are two different ones.
One, wishing
Right.
your
so my bachelor's was at Eastern.
Eastern and your bilingual
My
education from.
master's at University of Connecticut.
Oh, they didn't put that here, but that's okay. We're not holding it against you. University of Connecticut, and your education leadership from Sacred Heart University. Right, correct? Okay. Mrs. Haddad has embedded herself as a leader throughout the Windham community through various organizations, club, organization, and school committee. She has several successful interim leadership positions through the district, to include the assistant principal at Windham Middle School, but also the STEM Academy. I personally want to thank you for jumping in and taking over the leadership of the STEM Academy when we all did not know exactly what direction we were going, and really proving yourself that this could work for our kids and showing your leadership. So I want to personally thank you for really doing your best and your best effort. And tonight, it gave me great pleasure to recommend you as assistant principal for the middle school. It is my pleasure.
Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion.
I could not be more thrilled to make a motion to appoint Ms. Joanne Haddad to the assistant principal position at, what?
Go ahead,
At
go
Windham Middle School, as someone who went to our own Windham High School before it was this Windham High School, yes?
No, this one.
This Windham High School.
Come on. And my mother and my brother,
You
please.
taught at Kramer. That's what I was thinking. You taught at Kramer, who has been a member of this community and active and vocal with it for her entire life.
Correct.
Who
That would
met
be
her former spouse here when she was in
Correct.
high
That's
school.
right.
And had a beautiful daughter and son, and now has wonderful grandchildren, and brings them up in Windham and brings them to activities, and did a better job at Steps than we did at Path.
Thank you. That's quite a motion.
I am thrilled to make the motion. I'm sorry, I'm just so excited. When I got that email yesterday, I was bursting. So I'm just so excited to make this motion. Thank you.
And second?
I second it.
So the motion's been made and seconded, and
Can
yes.
you read back the motion?
I don't know.
It was a little murky.
we'll have to run through the tape, I think, to read back that one. But we have a motion on the table, and I want to hand it over to you to say a few words.
Thank you. I want to apologize for, appearing to be on my phone, because I was. Just to write down a few notes, I didn't want to miss anything. I do want to thank Dr. Garcia, Dr. Youngberg, members of Central Office, members of the Board of Education, and this wonderful group of supporters here this evening, including colleagues, the SGC, and what my family knows me to refer to as my beautiful baby girl. I am grateful for Steps. I have to say, when I first went there, I was the deer caught in headlights without a doubt. And I'll tell you, I had some great people here that absolutely uplifted me and helped me get through a rough start, and then we were smooth sailing from then on. I have to say, however, that I always felt
or I won't say always, but often felt like a visitor there. And tonight on my way here, I purposely took the route of Quarry Street to ride by the middle school. And I literally came to a stop in front of it, clicked my heels, and said, "There's no place like home." I am so looking forward to working with an administrative team that I feel has a shared vision, because this is not about getting an administrative position by any means. This is about going on a mission to get some things done that need to happen there. And I absolutely feel that we have a cohesive team that will do that. And I am just looking forward to getting that done. And I'm so grateful that I'm here with Dr. Ware this evening, and grateful for all of you. Thank you.
You made me teary-eyed. I know. Is there anybody who wants to say anything on the board? Or-
I just want to say I'm so happy that you're back home
Thank you.
and that the middle school will be much better with you and Dr. Ware
Thank you.
sailing the ship. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor that has been seconded. Shall we vote?
Yes.
All those in favor of the motion on the floor? It's unanimous. Congratulations.
I do want to say, Mrs. I know you're returning home, but I do want to say that that STEP Academy graduated 10 students. That's more than Pat ever graduated. We graduated 10 students.
And that wasn't alone, believe me. That was a concerted effort.
In 1 year, we graduated 10 students.
I'm sorry I missed it. I was so happy that Tracy could be there.
Yep.
And I read her
Mary,
comments.
Ilda,
Mary and Ilda
yes.
were there too.
Yes,
And
yes.
I read the newspaper story. It was
Beautiful.
very heartwarming, and you should be very proud.
Thank you.
You should be very proud.
Thank you.
So what a dynamic duo. We're gonna, and other people on the administrative
Absolutely.
team there.
Absolutely.
And thank you for the SGC members who showed up tonight. And so this is something we all need to keep working on together.
No
Middle
doubt.
school,
No doubt.
and we're looking forward to taking that road with you.
Right. It doesn't just end with us.
Right.
It includes them as
Right,
well,
all
without a
of,
doubt.
all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session, and the wording for the motion is here. Would somebody like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion. Go ahead and read it.
A discussion
I
concerning.
don't have it in front of me, so I
No,
can't read it.
discussion concerning an attorney-client communication regarding steps concerning a forensic investigation and possible action.
Second.
Motion's been made by Tracy, seconded by Mark. How about we take a 5-minute recess so that people can say hi to the SGC and other folks here, and folks can grab some food if you want on your way out the door, and administrators are not required to be here for the executive session.